talking about Womack,
Oh yeah.
but it wasn't Andrew.
Oh, okay. That's when I first started understanding about the spirit, soul, and body was through Andrew,
Okay.
and it was interesting. I love his stuff. I went to school, so
Yeah.
He's listening.
yeah. And then, have you heard of Bud and Gina Boop?
No.
They his wife had a level 4 brain aneurysm, and they were going to pronounce her. She only had a certain amount of time to live. She's in the hospital, and Bud was friends with Andrew, and had Andrew call. He called him and he prayed over her, and Bud wouldn't allow anyone in the room, not even the doctors, to speak anything negative over her. And he said, my wife is going to live and not die. And he kept declaring the word of God over her. And they thought he was crazy. And then the doctor says, okay, we have to do an emergency surgery to relieve the pressure in the brain. She doesn't have, she may not survive this.
Mm-hmm.
If she does, she's most likely going to stay in a coma and not come out of this. But you have to make a decision. What part of the brain, we have to go in through this part of the brain that is either her walking or talking. Which one do we choose?
Wow.
And he says, it doesn't matter. She's going to walk out of here, so you can go through the walking. And so they did the surgery, everything. She is still alive. She was just on the podcast. She's walking, talking, and she survived. They documented her stories on his, I think, healing journeys, and her whole story is on there. Doctors and pastors and people that thought they were crazy and everything.
God.
It's pretty cool. But
Oh yeah.
they came on here and shared a little bit, so I still have a lot of their videos. I'm still posting.
That's exciting.
But okay.
Is he alive or what?
Andrew?
Is he,
is he
yes. alive or what?
Absolutely. Yes, he is. Okay. Oh, my nose is getting a little. Okay. Here we go. So, and then I don't think I asked you your names.
Kim,
Josie.
not Kim
Singer.
and Jose. Okay. No, seriously.
Kim,
Josie. Pen singer.
Okay.
Pen singer.
Pen singer.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to write this down. Because I didn't even ask you that on your texts.
I know. We just kind of set this up. I didn't remember your name until I was
Jacob,
in front
yeah.
of your house, and I said, I better look up this guy's name. I don't even know his name. I don't remember it.
Kim, Josie,
Pen singer.
Okay.
Our ministry is Dominican Advance.
Dominican Advance.
That's all you really need to know.
All right. And then we'll just have a conversation.
All right.
All right. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another IgniteFire podcast. We have two special guests with us today. Missionaries, their ministry is called Dominican Advance, and this is Kim and Josie.
Hi.
Let me try that one more time. And this is Kim, and Josie Pensinger. So thank you guys for joining me on the podcast today.
Excellent.
Thank you for having us on.
Absolutely.
It's an honor to be here.
And we're going to share with the audience a little bit of your guys' story. So tell me, Kim, how'd you guys even meet?
Well, we actually met in church. I think that's a good place to meet your future spouse.
You don't want to meet in the club, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, right.
It's true. True.
So I actually was on staff at a church in Tucson, and it was a dynamic church that was growing. And my wife, she has, her own story, but came from California, gave her life to Jesus, and I happen to have been the one that baptized her.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And so baptized her, and then I just kind of said, well, I think that's my wife that I just baptized.
Now, Josie, what was your take on it?
Totally different.
Yeah.
Totally different. I am a first generation Mexican American. So here's this white boy. And have you ever heard of the Mexican American War?
No.
Okay. That's a long story.
Okay.
But we.
Not as long as
the,
ours.
the main thing is that it was exciting to.
That was over in a few years. Ours is a kind of ongoing.
Very, coming to know the Lord at a young age, 17 years old. That was in 1977.
Oh, okay.
And it was all new to me, and having a person that was interested, but in a Christian, totally different, Christian environment and stuff like that. So, but here we are 45 years later.
Where were you guys living at that time?
Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, okay.
That's where I first actually went to my first Christian church and heard the gospel and got baptized. He baptized me, also came, to be filled with the Holy Spirit, all of the experience that I had at that time and that age. And but the rest is history. We have 3 children. Like I said, 45 years later, here we are, and excited, living for God all these years.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your guys' ministry and what's going on today.
We really felt the Lord call. We've been in full-time ministry really since 1977, but we really felt the Lord call us in 2004 to the Dominican Republic. Didn't know exactly how things were going to end up, but we moved our family there, all 5 of us, and we eventually lived there in the Dominican for 10 years and set up really a powerful ministry team with the focus on Christian schools. So, we have story after story of how the Lord has brought us so far in our journey, and that journey just continues and continues to unfold. But in 2007, we opened our first school and had 80 students. Today we have, this coming school year, we'll have over 800 students in 2 elementary schools and high school, and we'll have almost 30 kids in college.
Oh, wow.
All Christ-based education there in the Dominican Republic.
Absolutely amazing. And so we were talking a little bit before we started recording on you guys helped pioneer many churches. Can you tell me a little bit about how that began and how you got the opportunity to start building these churches?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, the church that we got saved in Tucson was or still is very mission-minded, and so church planting was the primary focus of what they did and what they still do to this day.
Oh, wow.
So I had a sense that there was a call of God upon my life, when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where, you sense it, but you just kind of put it on a shelf someplace. It's like, you go on and live your life and do all kinds of other things. So I knew that when I gave my heart to the Lord, I was at the University of Arizona, 21 years old. And I knew that when I did that, if I was saying yes to Jesus for salvation, I was saying yes to ministry. To me, it was the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, as I said, I worked under my pastor, had many different teachers and influence and different things like that. But they ended up sending me out. I hadn't married her yet, but as a single man, they sent me to Greenlee County, and that's where I started that's where I planted my first church, and then she joined me a year later. From there, we went and started a church in El Paso, Texas. We've pastored in Nogales, done a lot of work across Nogales, Arizona, but have done a lot of work in Mexico as well across the line. And we just kept moving around, and God just kept sending us here and sending us there. We moved back to Tucson. Then we went to North Bay, Ontario. We're there for 3 years, started a successful church there. God called us to Argentina. We were there in 86,
Oh, wow.
and started to work there. In the meantime, we stopped at, made a year's stop in Costa Rica to go to language school, missionary language school. I spoke some Spanish, she spoke some Spanish, but that year there really helped us and gave us a foundation for
Yeah.
what we're doing. From Argentina, we took a church in San Diego. Then from there, we ended up in Vermont, from Vermont to the Dominican Republic. But almost all of those churches and experiences have obviously made us who we are today, but have multiplied and really helped have furthered the kingdom of God.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did the school begin? How did that opportunity come to be? And what was the genesis of that?
Well, that's a great question. So, we went to the Dominican Republic to work with another ministry. That didn't work out. So we had raised our support. There were 5 of us on the mission field, and we were missionaries without a mission. And so it was really a crisis time for us. Our pastors flew down, and I even asked him at one point. I said, "Hey, if this doesn't work out, can I get my old job back?" Because I had a nice office, I had security, I had
That
this.
is true.
We
True
were
story.
we were okay in Vermont and everything like that. So. We got a hold of God and just began to do some soul searching. But in addition to that, we began to ask people, Jacob, in the Dominican, what's the biggest need that you have here? Because we had just been, we had arrived maybe 4 months before this to work with this ministry. And when it didn't work out, it's like we didn't really know a lot about where we were in the Dominican. So we began to ask questions, ask pastors, and people, and everybody said the same thing. The biggest need is education. And I thought, well, we had a Christian school in San Diego. I was a principal of a small Christian high school in Vermont. We could do something like that. So we began to knock on pastors' doors, and our vision was, about that big, maybe that big. And we were thinking, well, we could partner with a church. They have a facility. Maybe we could get a classroom or something like that and start a small, work there. And we began to knock on doors. Go ahead.
And it was just we were actually looking at a building just 3 classrooms. And I mean, maybe 15 kids, 20 kids was what we were looking at
30
that
max.
time.
Max
Was it
out at 30. Max out at 30.
30 would have been max. But it was very small.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we were looking at. That's the level of our vision at that time.
Okay.
So, we were asking pastors, we got some material together. Would you read this? Would you be interested in different things? And nothing really opened up. And so one day I was walking into a gym and working out there in the Dominican. And as I'm walking towards the door, there are 2 dogs in front of. I know you're saying, what the heck is he talking about? But just bear with me. This is part of the story. There are 2 dogs in front of the door there. There's a little dog and there's a big dog. I've found that it's always the little dogs you got to watch out for.
Oh, yeah.
And so this little dog just starts going crazy, and he starts yelping and this and that and different things. And he starts getting the big dog excited. And I don't speak dog, so I didn't really know. I found out later from circumstance what the little dog was saying. But it just so happens as I opened the door to this gym, the big dog comes around and bites me in the leg.
Oh, dang.
And so I walk in, and I'm bleeding and different things. And the people are saying, "Are you all right? You okay?" And I said, "Well, I can't work out. I'm bleeding." My wife had dropped me off because we had one car at that time. And so I called her, and she took me to the clinic. They cleaned the wound and all of that. And I'm sitting on the couch in my house, and I'm going, I better find out who owns that dog, because if that dog's got problems, then I'm going to have problems.
Yeah.
So the little dog was obviously saying to the big dog, "Bite him, bite him, bite him, bite him, bite him. Come on, bite him, bite him, bite him, bite him now." So I went back after I went back to the gym after the wound had healed a little bit, and different things. And I said, "Whose dog does that belong to?" She said, "Oh, that belongs to so-and-so." And it just so happens that I knew her mother. She was a pastor in one of the villages. She had a church. And in my mind, I'm seeing, okay, she has this small church, but right next to it is a vacant lot. I was thinking, we could build a building on that classroom, 3 classrooms on that lot. Let me go up and talk to the pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went up, we talked to the pastor. She said, well, this property is owned by a woman in Spain, but we'll contact her. And, that was the whole thing. So word got out that Kim and Josie were interested in planning or starting a school.
Mm-hmm.
That led us to the Samaritan Foundation. The Samaritan Foundation is a Canadian foundation that builds villages in that area
wow.
of the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And when they build a village, they build houses, a medical clinic, and a school.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a call from the CEO, the founder of the Samaritan Foundation, whom we already knew. And he said, I've heard that you were looking to start a school. I said, well, I am. And he said, well, I have a new village, and I'd like for you to meet me up there and see what you think. And so we went up there, and he was going to build today it has 95 houses. At that point, when we saw it, there were 5 houses that were under construction. Took us up to the high spot of the village, and he said, this is going to be the area for the school.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, do you think that you could build a school here, equip it, and operate it? Have, funds to where you can operate it? And of course, at that point, we had no money, no website. We had a few connections, but just really, absolutely starting from zero.
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized this is do or die. It's now or never. And I said, yes, I can. And so it wasn't long after that we were in an English-speaking service. They gave us the land, and it was in an English-speaking service. And we were sitting in front of a couple. And when the time came for greeting, turn and greet one another, we turned and greeted this couple. And they said, well, where are you from? And different things. And we found out that they were from Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
And we had just moved from Vermont. And they said, well, what are you doing here? I said, well, we've got some land. We'd like to build a school. Turns out that he's a very successful Vermont businessman, holy Christian man. He's now on our board. And he said, I'll tell you what, I want to go up and see it. And if I like it, I'm going to give you the $5,000 and I'm going to start fundraising for you.
Wow.
So that's how it started. And that was in April. In June, we started construction. In August, we got our staff together. In September, we opened school with 80 kids and full staff. And then 2 months later, in November, around Thanksgiving time, we had paid off all the building, had all of the equipment, and every one of our first 80 students had sponsors.
Wow.
That's how we started.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
That was in 2007.
Okay.
So we've
wow.
been doing this for, my math is correct, 17 years. We're in the 17th year.
Wow.
But that's just one school, and that was a small school. Now we have, like I said, we will have over 800 children in our schools. We have 3 schools.
Oh wow.
Today.
So, what has in from the time that you started till now, what have been some of the major challenges that you guys run into, and then how did you guys overcome those?
You want to start with that one?
I think that's a little bit, the challenges can range from just the everyday,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be from forces and situations that everybody can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just put it out there, it can be finances.
Mm-hmm.
Is figuring out, where there's a need, where is this, how we're going to meet that need or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That is, it's a continual challenge. Challenges with, even with our own faith,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the vision with a different perspective, and not, the vision that it's not our vision, and always coming back to that place and saying, it's not my vision, it's not my plan,
Yeah.
it's not something that necessarily that, okay, I'm doing this, but understanding and always putting in perspective that this is a plan of God. This is God's heart.
Mm-hmm.
This is what He wants displayed, and He's using us. And so those are, I think, for me, I guess I'm speaking to me personally, are some of the challenges is the financial and knowing that okay, there's a challenge here to continue growing and to see what God wants to do. But with those two challenges, I can honestly say that God has always shown Himself faithful and has never let us down. And this ministry, His ministry, continues to constantly grow. I mean, there hasn't been anything that has stopped it
Wow.
from the moment of conception to now. And I have more things that are still developing. As
Yeah.
of yesterday, it's just mind blowing.
Wow.
So
I think everybody, on the mission field has their own challenges. And I know everyone certainly has their own story. And our story isn't so much about opposition. We haven't had, these major hurdles that we had to overcome or major opposition or adversaries or things like that. The interesting thing about our story is the fact, Jacob, that it's God that has challenged us at every step of the
Yes.
way. So, as I said, I don't want to hit this microphone. Our faith was about like this. We wanted to build 3 little classrooms. Okay. Today, we have 17 different buildings that we've fundraised for, on 3 different campuses and all that. So we started our school, right? So going back now to the first school. And we were so happy. It's just, and to this day, it's high quality education.
Yeah.
I think we were talking before the break that we are now, certified model schools for the Dominican Republic, according to the Ministry of Education. And that school, that little school, has produced some of the best students in all of the Dominican Republic.
Wow.
And it's in a very poor area. Especially when we started, one of the biggest problems we had was water, getting water to the school, and there was no electricity, there was this and that. Some of that has changed, but still the people live in very poor conditions. But here we are, and we loved our school, and it just kept growing. Every year we added a grade, and we'd find sponsors, and everything was going great. And we had our school to the 8th grade, and we said to ourselves, at the 8th grade, we're done. That's right, we'll go to the 8th
was
grade.
it.
Yeah, that was it. 8th grade, we're done. And then by the time we got to the 6th grade, we're looking at these kids going, but in 2 years, they're going to graduate. Where are they going to go? There's no high school for them. We're promising a brighter future to them and their family. We're saying, Jesus is going to change your life. We're going to, equip you. And yet they're just going to drop out after 8th. So we had this challenge, okay? We had this challenge, and that was, okay, now what are we going to do? So then we had to realize, okay, we're going to have to build a high school. We're going to have to buy land. We're going to have to that whole thing, the challenge that was there. So here again, now, instead of just a school, now we're looking at a high school. In the midst of that, we had an opportunity to start the 2nd school. And it was like, well, I don't know if we can take on a 2nd school. We have no more, the finances and all of that. But the Lord showed us that that's what He wanted. And immediately the finances were there. We begin to build and all this other. My wife will tell you, she can tell the story about the feeding program that we had. At every step of the way, God challenged our faith, and in doing that, it brought glory to Him, blessing to the people, and changed who we are. Tell them what happened with Nutrineños in the beginning.
So, just to add something to what he's saying is, as a mom, and I'm not, Jacob, I don't know if you have children.
We have 2, yeah.
2, okay.
A 21-year-old and an 18-year-old and a grandbaby, 5-year-old grandbaby.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Congratulations.
So, when you're a parent and you're trying to get to a specific location, whether most of the times, like if you're walking and you're pulling your little child by the hand and having them keep up with you, that kind of thing, that has been a visual, kind of sharing with you the way it's been with God. Through this whole journey and starting Dominican Advance, it has been God taking us by the hand and saying, keep up with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it has it's been an incredible journey. And honestly, he's been very faithful
Yeah.
and all of that. But this Nutri Niños program I'm very passionate about it. It started as a result of the children in their very first school, 80 kids. Unbeknownst to me, I just assumed that all those children were coming to school early in the morning, having eaten breakfast. And a few months later, come to find out that over 70% of those kids were attending class without having eaten not even a glass of milk or whatever.
Wow.
And it was affecting their
Behavior.
primarily their behavior, and what followed was the academic performance.
Yeah. Their
But
brains aren't functioning fully.
So their behavior, I mean, unruly. Their teachers were like, we had one teacher just said, I can't handle it. And that's what started the Nutri Niños program. I said, we're going to provide a supplemental meal for these children when they come in the morning. And that in itself was, I just like, how do we go about this? We don't have the extra money. And God used a doctor to come and tell me, he says, you should not be embarrassed or ashamed or shy about asking, because it's not for you, it is for them.
Yeah.
Within months, we saw the academic level of every child just literally skyrocket. Emotionally, physically, everything, their behavior completely changed. So, I mean, here again, these are simple things that we think we should know, but until we see the opposite reality,
Yeah.
then we begin to say, it's like God saying, this is a reality. You come from an area where, developed country where you can have access to breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or whatever, snacks, but these children don't.
So, but look at the size of our faith. Okay, so we discover this
That's
huge
true.
need,
Yeah.
and the first thing that we did, both of us, says, who can we get that will raise money to feed these kids? We
That's
weren't
true.
thinking of doing that.
Oh.
It's like, well, we don't do that. We don't, wow, that would be a huge step of faith. So we asked people, would you like to do this? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do this? There's an opportunity. Everybody said no. So we said, okay.
We were.
And we began to do it, and that was the beginning of the Nutri Niños program. But here again, at every point, it's like, like she said, God takes us by the hand and says, no, I want you to do this. And we just go on, and he makes a way. And we're facing that same thing right now, because we're converting our high school into technical school, and we have to raise a certain amount of money in order to build the building on our campus. And so it's here again, we're taking another major step forward, but he's with us, and it's, as my wife said, it's his work, and that's where our confidence lies.
It sounds to me like God has, in this time, has stretched you, but has always come through every single time.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. So for those who are watching, how are they able to get in contact with you guys? How are they able to support what you guys are doing, the mission in the Dominican? How can they get involved?
The real point of contact is our website, which is dominicanadvance.org. I would say that because of certain practical hurdles that we have, we're not on Instagram yet. We do have, our schools are on Instagram. Like, for example, the high school, they will post things on their link.
Oh, okay.
But it's all in Spanish. So if
Yeah.
you don't speak Spanish, you would have to use the translation feature on your browser, which you can do. But we as a ministry, we haven't gone to that. We have a YouTube channel, but we haven't really developed that either, because we're no longer in the Dominican. We're based out of Tucson now, and we don't have.
Oh, okay.
We have over 80 employees, but they're all involved in education. So we don't have someone that's like an audiovisual person or a contact like that. So the best place is DominicanAdvance.org. And
Okay.
that's where we have a lot of our information, and you can make contact with us. And you can sponsor a child there, because
Oh,
we have
okay.
a very
Absolutely.
strong child sponsorship program. That's how we support a lot of what we do as a ministry.
Well, that's awesome.
So, Jacob, I did want to say, highlight one thing, actually a couple of things, but one of the things that through Dominican Advance and Nutrininos, both programs, Dominican Advance provides an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's more than just a handout, and I know we hear that phrase, you know,
Mm-hmm.
about handing out and all of that, but we really provide an opportunity so that it really also gives, there's an element of responsibility for the one who's being offered an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, here's an opportunity, but it's up to you. Where are you going to take it? Just like anything in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we do, is we provide all of these children, families,
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity to move away and to get out of poverty and do something with their significant with their lives, and it's just really exciting. The second thing is, through all of this, is displaying the heart of God,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what really just it's just really, really exciting to see God's handiwork, and we're just partnering with Him to show people what He is doing, and that is, to me, that's the ultimate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you guys for watching this special episode with Kim and Josie. And we're going to have that link in the description so you guys can click on that and go ahead and get in contact with them and support the mission and these kids out in the Dominican, and really giving them an opportunity and giving and challenging them to go beyond what the limitations that has been set in the society that's been around them. So thank you guys. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification button. We love you. God loves you. And until next time, God bless.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That was tremendous, Jake.
I was
That
like-
was super good. Wow.